5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the United States. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went off to bed at about 10 PM. To pass the time and keep myself entertained, I used to take long walks, taking time to watch the activities of the night and get lost deep in thought. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1:30 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police patrolled park. It was quite away from my apartment. It was a pretty quiet night, even for a weeknight. There was hardly any traffic, and practically no one on foot. The park was as it was most nights, completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back upon myself and head back to my apartment. That's when I first noticed him, at the far end of the street. He was on my side. It was the silhouette of a man dancing. It was very strange. The dance was similar to that of a waltz, but he finished each move with an odd forward stride. He was dance walking, heading straight towards me. I just assumed he was probably a drunken man returning home after a hard night's drinking. So I stepped closer to the road, giving him the majority of the path to pass me by. Yet, the closer he got, the more I realised how gracefully he was moving. He was tall and lanky and was wearing what seemed to be a pretty old suit. He danced closer still, until I could make out his face. His eyes were open, wild and wide, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. But his mouth was formed into a painfully wide, grotesque cartoon smile. I decided to cross the road before he danced any closer to me. I took my eyes off him to cross the street, and as I reached the other side, I glanced back. I stopped in my tracks. He'd stopped dancing, and he was standing with one foot in the road, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me, but still looking skywards, smile still wide upon his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this strange man. I started to walk again, but kept my eyes locked upon him this time. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him to watch where I was walking. The entire street was empty. I had never felt so uneasy, and the thought of the man made me shiver to the core. I looked back to where he had been standing. He'd gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved. That was until I noticed that he had crossed the street, and he was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure because of the distance and darkness, but I was certain he was facing me. I could almost feel it. It was such a strange feeling. I'd only looked away from him for about 10 seconds, so it was clear to me that he had moved rather fast and rather quietly. I mean, I was so shocked by this man that I just stood there, just staring at him for some time. And then he started moving again, taking giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps. He was moving very fast towards me. I'd like to say at this point that I ran and pulled out my cell phone to call the police, or even stood my ground ready to fight this scarily strange man. But I didn't. I mean, I couldn't. I just stood there, frozen, rooted to the spot as the smiling man approached me. And then he stopped again. About a car length away from me, still smiling his smile, still staring at the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to my mind. What I meant to ask was, "What do you want?" in an angry, strong, commanding tone. What came out was merely a whimper. What? I had never been so terrified in my life. Every hair stood on end and cold shivers ran through every bone in my body. regardless whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it on my own voice, and that made me even more afraid. But he didn't react at all. He just stood there smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around and slowly started to dance walk away. Just like that. No words. Not even a look. Not wanting to turn my back on him, I watched him go until he was far enough away to be almost out of sight. And then I realised something. He wasn't moving away anymore. Nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way. He was running. This time my feet got the message and I sprinted away. I ran until I was off the side road and onto a better lit road with a small amount of traffic. Stopping for a breath, I looked behind me. He was nowhere to be seen. On the rest of my walk home, I kept glancing behind me, expecting to see his hideous smiling face, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never took a walk at night again. There was something about the unnatural and stretched smile on his face that still haunts me and gives me the creeps to this day. Every time I think about that utterly insane and inhuman look, it scares me more knowing it wasn't due to drink or drugs. I still don't know who or what it was. And I think, to be fair, I want to keep it that way.